Something weird is happening in the online education market right now. The middle is disappearing. People just aren't buying mid-ticket products like they used to. Instead, they're grabbing super cheap mini courses, or else they're going completely nuts and dropping thousands on high-ticket offers. Nothing in between. So if you are an online educator wondering why it is that your sales have felt off this year, you are not imagining it. What you're about to watch is a live webinar I delivered to my list recently, and I wanted to post it here for everyone to see. I'm breaking down exactly what is and is not working in online education this year, which are the lessons I've learned from the hundreds of businesses that I've interacted with in my mentorship practice this year. You'll discover where buyers are actually spending money, which marketing channels are exploding right now, and how to position your business so that you are riding the wave instead of fighting it. Let's get into it. Very quickly, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Olly Richards. I'm from the UK, as you can probably tell. I, for the last almost 13 years, have been running a business called Story Learning, where we teach languages through stories. It's a multi-million-dollar business. I've written and published over 25 books, shortly to be 35, because we're like cranking on all cylinders with books. Have a fairly substantial YouTube channel, being featured all over the media in different places. I've worked with lots of different entrepreneurs. I run gatherings, communities, masterminds of all different kinds, and yeah, that's a little bit about me. So I am basically what I do these days. Now I specialize in the field of online education. So for people who are running online education businesses based on their experience, on their expertise, on their teaching, that is who I work for. And to be clear, everything we're going to cover today is going to be largely based on what is working for education businesses. Okay, there are lots of different types of businesses on the internet, from dropshipping to agencies. We are focusing on online education. And I've worked with hundreds of online education businesses over the course of this year. What I'm going to teach you here is all the stuff that I am seeing working. So you really are getting a kind of download of my brain this year. So hopefully this is going to be really valuable to everyone. Quite different to last year. I'm going to be covering 6 things. You know, last year we talked a lot about AI and what's happening off the back of AI. This year, less about AI, and I'll explain why in a moment. But this is what we're going to cover. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the landscape as I see it. I'm going to tell you, we're going to talk about product, what's changed in product, what's changed in marketing, what is not necessarily changing, but working really well in terms of books. Some other stuff, which is actually only one thing, but I wanted to include it, and then some takeaways at the end. So that's the game plan. Does that sound good to everybody? Hopefully it does. So without any further ado, let's dive in. Right, so an overview of the year according to Olly. So I emailed about this yesterday, actually. I was on the phone to an old mentor of mine, and we were talking about the weirdness in the market. And he said to me, Olly, what I'm seeing is the middle is gone. The middle of the market is gone. And I wasn't immediately sure what he meant by this, but then he was explaining what he was seeing on his side. Now, he's in the business coaching space, so that's not necessarily relevant to everybody. But as he described what was happening, it was quite clear to me that we're seeing a very similar thing in lots of different spaces. So for him in particular, what he's seeing is that a lot of coaching clients who would have come in at a normal tier are now not coming in. And what's happening instead is people are buying either very cheap packages, low ticket things, or extremely expensive packages. And I think part of the reason for this is, as we'll see in a second, the macroeconomic climate this year has been weird. And that is influencing things, and trust is down. People are tightening the purse strings a little bit. And so generally people who are buying regular price stuff are just not buying. Instead, they're looking for cheap things. And then on the flip side, the people who have loads of money are spending liberally, as always, which I guess in a way is a kind of a reflection of the overall economy. That was in the coaching space. Then my friends who do B2B sales, so, you know, outreach, selling into corporate and big businesses, again, nobody's answering the phone. It's weird. People just aren't picking up. Similarly, friends of mine who run live events have all said the same thing. It is really, really hard this year to get bums on seats. And people just are not spending 1, 2 grand on events to go to live. They're just not doing it. It's not like it was immediately after COVID when everyone was kind of going crazy for in-person meetups. It's really, really weird. So why do we think this is happening? Well, in the summer, I was in the US and I was hanging out with a lot of internet marketers and a lot of authors and a lot of people kind of at the top of their game. And they all kind of pretty much explained a similar thing, which I think explains to a large extent why it is that people aren't buying. What have we had this year? If you cast your mind back to the beginning of the year, we've had the whole Trump tariff debacle, where basically the entire world froze. Double digits was wiped off the stock market. If you have a pension fund, you suddenly saw your pension fund drop by 10, 20%. Add to that cost of living. Add to that all the wars that are kind of have been kicking off around the world. This is a climate of uncertainty, and I've seen this once before, which was in 2020, about a month before COVID hit. It was like February, March 2020. I remember seeing very, very clearly sales at Story Learning just fell off a cliff. And I remember thinking, that's so bizarre. We're down like 50%. And of course, the reason was that people were there was this sense of impending panic about what was coming down the road with COVID, and they stopped buying. I've seen a very, very similar thing this year, and I think is explained by all of this. But it's strange because at the same time, the stock market is at an all-time high. Bitcoin has been above 100. And so the stock market is kind of going crazy, largely fueled by AI. So on the face of it, all is rosy, but out in the real world, people are really struggling and they are uncertain and everything is getting more expensive. And so they're holding on to, they're tightening the purse strings much more than they were. So for me, this is why this is happening. A lot of people in the US also blamed, should I go there? No, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to leave that out. But anyway, this is why I think all of these things are happening. So if you have seen some weirdness in your market, you're not alone. And this is the reason I'm explaining all this stuff, right? It's not to make geopolitical points. It's to say that things are weird out there. And so if you are feeling, if you've noticed that that's been happening with you, join the club. You're not alone. I'd be interested in the chat, actually, if anyone would like to say what shift you've seen in buyer behavior in your market. That might be really interesting for everyone else to see. So feel free to go ahead. So the middle has evaporated from the market. And so we'll talk about what to do about that a little bit later. On the course front, because I know many of you guys here have course businesses, course sales have dropped. Not for everybody, but on the whole, course sales have dropped. Among my various friends who have been in the course selling game for a long time, people just ain't buying like they used to. However, it's not the doom and gloom that people thought it was going to be a couple of years back. Wind the clock back 2 years ago, people thought the courses were finished. They thought, within a couple of years, AI is going to just take over. No one's going to want courses anymore. That, as far as we can tell, is not happening. It is true that people are buying less courses than before. Why is that? Combination of strange economic times plus a general fascination with AI. But in plenty of places, people are still buying courses like they used to. And personally, I'm quite encouraged by this because I still think in the long term there's a general trajectory of courses being phased out, simply because you can get more personalized information from AI. So as it gets better, I think there is going to be a big shift. But I think courses now have actually got quite a lease of life. And if you combine that with the next thing that's coming up here that you can't quite see, I think that actually there's quite a lot of scope for people selling courses to be positive. And I don't know about you, and I'm not sure about saying this, but I got to say from my perspective, I think this is the case. And I'd love to know in the chat what you guys think about this, but I think there is a general sense that AI, the progress of AI, is not quite turning out to be the big and be all and end all that everybody thought. It's just not doing a lot of the stuff that it was promised to do. It's doing lots of stuff, but there's lots of things it's not doing. And you're seeing this in many different areas. It can do lots, but it's just not quite there. And so I think what we've got here is a kind of new lease of life for people who are able to be the purveyors of real quality education and information that's trustworthy. So the jury's out on this. We'll know more in December 2026 when I do this again. But anyway, so personal brands are back. Now, personal brands have never really gone anywhere, and there's been a kind of general move towards this in the last few years. But more than ever, it's become really, really apparent that personal brands are becoming more and more important. And that's because the content ecosystem is getting flooded by AI slop, to use that wonderful phrase. And so I think we're only just starting to really feel this, but anyone who spends any time on YouTube and social media in general will have noticed this. And so with the amount of crap that's just being flooded around the internet, what we're seeing is that trust is going down and people are wanting to relate, they're wanting to learn from real people, hence the rise of personal brands. I think we can look to online marketers or marketers in general to understand this, because marketers are often kind of ahead of the curve and push the curve a bit. Just to pick two examples, Daniel Priestley, who's doing a lot of great stuff, had recently started the YouTube channel under his own name and is giving it 100%. My buddy Ryan Dice, who I think probably would say he's not traditionally been the kind of big personal brand type guy. He's doubling down on his YouTube channel, making some great stuff. And so I think we're going to see more and more personal brands coming back again, becoming more powerful, and all of us, I think, should be leaning into that as opposed to the kind of company business, as it were. Right, so that's just a general picture of the main things that I'm seeing. A strange buyer behavior in the middle of the market, courses dropping in the same way as they had a couple of years ago, but actually proving quite resilient, and personal brands just becoming more and more and more important into the future. So let's talk about products, because this follows on closely from this middle of the market thing that I was just speaking about. So if you imagine we've got the kind of, in very broad brushstrokes, we've got like low, middle, and high in the market. Okay, so we have low ticket, middle ticket, high ticket, and it's the middle that's kind of disappeared. So what are people buying instead? Well, they're buying low ticket and they're buying very, very high ticket. So what kind of things are people buying? So on the low ticket front, people who would have bought regular price stuff in the past are now buying a lot of cheap things. What does that mean? Specifically, it means things like mini courses, so cheap low ticket products, how I do this specific little thing. All right. Anyone who follows my business brand will know that I sell a lot of $100 workshops. I mean, it's not that low ticket, it's low ticket-ish, but they're always on very specific topics and they always sell really, really well. And that's because there's a promise to teach a very specific piece of information for not very much money. It's quite compelling. People seem to really like that. Yeah, so this is really interesting to look at. I've been saying to coaches and kind of cohort owners for quite some time now, it's a really good idea to build out an ecosystem of low ticket products, because it gives you so much more flexibility in the stuff that you sell, right? You've just got more options. If you're running cohorts or you're doing launches for your high ticket stuff, you can't be promoting the same stuff every day. Having these lower ticket products really gives you more flexibility in your ecosystem. And so mini courses. The other big thing that's working super well right now is custom GPTs. So whatever it is that you teach, if you can put together custom GPTs, which you can do for free on ChatGPT, I think you have to have a paid plan, but you can do this for free, and you can create GPTs which just help people do stuff faster. So for example, I have a program called magnetic messaging, which helps you kind of with messaging and positioning in your business so that you can really define what makes you unique and connect with your ideal customer. This course is quite substantial to go through. It's like a 2-week course every day. But now I'm in the process of creating this custom GPT, which simply asks you a bunch of questions and then automatically creates your one-page positioning document for you, and it just speeds up the whole process, right? I've got one that we use internally at Story Learning, which is for generating YouTube titles and thumbnails. Okay, what used to take hours of ideation, now you can plug in and get really fast results to start working with. So whatever it is that you teach, custom GPTs, you can put these together and sell access to them for $20 or something like that. People are buying these like crazy. They work great organically. They also work really well for upsells in paid ads funnels. So if you're looking for a way to boost your return on ad spend, try selling some custom GPTs as upsells on order bumps. Working really, really well. So low ticket. In addition to that, there are people with a lot of money out there, and they are buying very high ticket stuff as normal. So for example, a really great example of this was a guy who's working with me one-to-one in my mentorship, and he teaches B2B, and he was always selling mid-ticket stuff. It was around like $2,000, $2,500 for his product, but he was selling to 6- and 7-figure business owners. And so basically, when we were looking through his business, we realized these people are coming to you, and you're able to provide huge value, but you're not charging anywhere near proportionately. So we simply introduced an $18,000 offer and created 20 spots available, launched it to his list, and he sold out in about a week, created $500,000 of revenue just by making this high ticket thing available. Now, I know that this is a business to business thing, so that's not possible for everyone, but everyone, from what I see, for all the education entrepreneurs that I meet, very few people have an appropriately priced high ticket offer, which for me, I think it should be anywhere really between 7 to 10 times what you normally charge for. So if you sell a course for $300, I think you should have at least a kind of $2,000 up to $5,000 high ticket thing available, because there are people who will buy that. Okay, so people are buying low ticket stuff and high ticket stuff. There are questions in the chat about what constitutes low and high ticket. It really does depend from niche to niche. But the point about low ticket is it should be a no-brainer. It's the sort of thing that your audience will see on a checkout or an order bump, look at it and think, oh, that's insignificant money to me, I'm going to buy it. So in the B2C education space, that might be a $27 upsell, for example, maybe a $49 course, low ticket. In the business space, that could be a couple of $100, but rule of thumb is kind of less than $100 is low ticket. High ticket, again, people have different variations. In B2C, that could start at around $2,000. If you sell B2B, it could be $10,000, $20,000 or more. Okay. So it's not so much about the absolute price range, but rather where you are kind of proportionally in your own product ecosystem. The thing I always like to say is that whatever it is that you sell, the main product you sell, there will be people out there who will pay you 10 times what you currently charge for a result if you can provide it, right? Now, that obviously means higher touch in terms of delivery, but, in a situation where the middle of the market is disappearing, it can be very much in your best interest to have that higher ticket thing available. So we've seen how people are gravitating towards lower ticket and high ticket stuff. The other thing that's working is just very, very interesting in the product space, which is of course brand new, is AI clones. Now, the language around this is horrible. I think when a lot of us hear the word AI clones, we just want to bury our head in the sand because it sounds awful. What is an AI clone? An AI clone is essentially where you upload your knowledge to a piece of software which digests that, and then your customers and your students can interact with it and ask it questions, and it will give back an answer. right? So let's imagine you teach Spanish, because I can see Dominique here in the chat. Let's imagine you teach Spanish. You can have an AI clone of you, and your students at any point could come in and could say, "Oh, I'm really struggling with Spanish this week. How would you recommend I get my motivation back?" And Dominique would say, "Well, as I always say, you need to do this, 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 and this." And it is an interactive thing, right? Then they could upload their homework, and you could say, "Can you correct my homework?" So it's like ChatGPT, except you train it specifically on your style, so that people have the experience of actually interacting with you specifically. So this here is Olly AI. And so I've trained Olly AI on every single piece of content I've ever created. Every blog post, every YouTube video, every client call, every office hours thing, every podcast, I've trained it on that. So Olly AI knows the vast majority of what I know, except it can remember it instantly, which I can't do, right? So when you talk with Olly AI, you could have Olly AI, you could ask, help me write my welcome sequence, help me critique my sales page, help me with my money mindset. Anything that I do, the knowledge is up here, and you can just chat to it and instantly get access to my knowledge. Now, this is obviously not the same as the real Olly, right? But let's imagine you were about to send out a sales email and you were like, I'm not sure that this is that good. What am I not seeing? You can upload it to Olly AI and say, hey, can you critique this? What am I missing? And it will tell you according to my trainings, right? So I think that's really useful. And people who have been using this have been absolutely raving about it, much more than I thought, actually. I wondered it might be a little bit of a gimmick, but actually people are loving it. And I have lots of friends who are using these AI clones to interact with their audience in a different way. And there are different ways that you can use this. You can use it as lead gen, right? So you can make it freely available on your website so that people can interact with you for free. And you can put that behind an email so you can collect email addresses, or you can just have it available on your website. It can be a subscription. So I thought I probably could charge a subscription for this for Olly AI because it's really, really useful. But and I have friends that do that. Lots of coaches do that. Or you could have it as a value add. So you put it inside your program to make it better. So in my case, I have this inside my scaling program, which is called Elevate. You can't get this publicly. I don't give it away. I don't sell subscriptions. The only way you can get access to this is inside my program. That's just how I've chosen to do it. That might change in the future. I don't know. But I think I could charge, like, I don't know, $50 a month rather than giving it away. So, but it's up to you. A lot of questions here, people asking about how people are reacting. So I think the thing to say is, like, they're not expecting it to be the same as talking to me. What they're looking for is a quick answer. So the kind of things people are using Olly AI for are, like I said before, critique my sales page for me, or I've got low conversion rates on my calls. How can I fix that? Could I anything? But it's like you're not expecting to talk to me one-to-one. Like, you just want a quick answer, and it's going to be good because it's trained on my stuff, right? So I think the mistake is to see this as a replacement. It's not that. It's simply another tool. So JJ here in the chat saying, I've used Olly AI extensively. It's super useful for copy feedback, brand language brainstorming, or for asking specific questions about Olly's courses. It does these shockingly well. It's occasionally wrong, but super helpful about 80 to 90% of the time. JJ, thanks for chiming in. I think that's about right. And creating the AI clones is super easy. I mean, I use a service called, do I have it here? I use a service called CoachVox. That's I've got a resource document here that I'll put in the chat where I've got links to a lot of the stuff that's in it. I use a service called CoachVox. It's fantastic. It took me probably about 2 hours to set up. It's really, really easy. Anyway, I don't want to go on about this, but I just want you to be aware that these are out there. Now, zooming out a bit, how should we be thinking about these AI clones? So I think that moving forward into the future, we should think about the fact that our knowledge is going to be digitized more and more. And what you might be noticing is that there are a lot of people, probably, well, I don't know how many people have been finding this, but lots of people, there are lots of companies out there soliciting you. It's basically saying, would you like to turn your thing into a custom GPT or an AI? A friend of mine had a university approach them recently, saying, can we create a version of your new book for the university, for a university AI thing? I think that in the future, your intellectual property is going to be something you have to protect very closely. Because if you imagine if like 5, 10 other companies have got access to your IP, then you no longer have kind of proprietary control over your stuff, right? So generally speaking, the way that I'm moving forward with this is that I am creating AI versions of myself. I'm open-minded as to how people interact with it and how people use it. I've been pleasantly surprised so far. I'm not letting anyone else anywhere near it. I'm owning it. Now I'm choosing to do this with CoachVox, mostly because I know the founder and I trust them. But if anyone else is going to email me saying, oh, can we create a chatbot? Just give us all of your stuff all up. No. So I think we should be using it, but we should be gatekeeping it and keeping it protected. So next is vibe-coded apps. Remember, we're on the topic of product here and what's changing in product. Now, vibe coding, for those of you who don't know, is basically where you can sit down with something similar to ChatGPT, not with ChatGPT, it's not great for this, but you can basically say, hey, I want to create an app. Here's what the app does. Go and build it for me. Right? So I could say, I want a website that teaches people about pens. I want it to have 3 sections, an about page, a store, and a blog. It should follow this color scheme. Go and make, and basically vibe coding is where you can just say in normal language what you want it to do, and the software will go and do all of it. And you can create entire apps and bits of software doing this. Now, I think there are big limitations to this, and you cannot expect to vibe code the next Facebook, right? Not that you want to, but imagine doing that. But what you can do is vibe code really, really functional pieces of software. So a entrepreneur that I work with called Reynard, who's in Australia, he teaches interior design. This is his channel, has a great YouTube channel, 539,000 subscribers. We spent a lot of time working on his course ecosystem to help improve course sales. And that was proving to be a bit stubborn, perhaps because of the general environment that we've been talking about. But guess what the solution was? A vibe-coded piece of software. Reynard literally sat down one weekend and did this. And what you do is you tell the AI your interior design preferences, what kind of things you like, and then you upload pictures of your original room, and then it helps you create the new interior design version of your house. Now, you can do this in ChatGPT, but this has got a beautiful wrapper around it. There's always kind of custom preferences. It can save things. It's really, really functional. I don't know about you, but if I'm redesigning my house, I'm using something like this. It's amazing. And he has hundreds of people a month. He told me the other day he has, well, I shouldn't reveal numbers, but he has hundreds of people joining this thing for a subscription fee. I forget how much. I don't know how much it is. It's like $10, $15 a month or something like that. Hundreds of people a month joining this thing. And he just whipped it up in a weekend by himself. That's pretty cool for someone who's completely non-technical, like me. I'm also that. You can sit down and say, here's what I want it to do, and it will do it. This is really interesting for many of us who maybe have thought, I'd love to make some software for my students. I think they'd pay for it. I think they'd do it. But I just don't know how to, and I'm a bit scared by tech and development, which you should be, by the way. It's a bottomless pit. But with these tools, and you can use a tool called Replit to do this, you can literally just sit down and create something like this, and it will do the paywall for you, the login system, it'll do everything for you. Now, you'll hit a brick wall fairly quickly if you try to really improve it. So if you're going to do something like this, the thing to do is to vibe code the minimum viable product of your app, the basic idea, sell it to your list, get people paying for it, and as soon as you've proven the concept, immediately go and hire a developer to actually build out something more robust. That's the way to do it. Okay. I don't recommend you try and push vibe coding as far as you can, because you're just going to end up tying yourself in knots with dodgy code and functionality. Vibe coding is for getting the MVP up, and then proving the concept by selling it to your audience, and then taking the development from there. This is really interesting. So let's do a quick recap of what we've seen on the product side. So we've seen that in the context of the middle falling out of the market, we've seen people gravitate towards low ticket stuff like mini courses and custom GPTs, towards high ticket stuff because people with money want to spend money. We've seen the rise of AI clones, and in particular, me, who's the kind of person who's pretty skeptical of AI clones and wary of all the sharks circling asking to make AI clones. I said, no, I'm not doing that, but I am making my own, and it's been fantastic. And we have seen the very, very curious and interesting and exciting, I think, rise of vibe-coded apps as well. So that's what we've seen on product. Right, so marketing. Again, like, this is not supposed to be a how to grow your business webinar. It's more about what trends am I seeing working, because I think so much of business on the internet, so much of succeeding with business on the internet is about understanding the general trends and going with the tide rather than against it. We've all heard that thing of like an idiot in the right market is gonna beat a genius in the wrong market 100% of the time. All right, and so we really want to make sure that we are positioning ourselves to go with the tide, because it makes everything else so much easier. So it was true last year, it's true again this year. It really is. YouTube is just becoming the be all and end all of stuff. And I think this is because it is one of the few channels remaining with long form evergreen searchable content. All right? SEO blogs were great for that. Trouble is, they're not discoverable anymore. Podcasts are great for long form content, but they're not discoverable either. So the amazing thing about you, the great gift of YouTube, is that it is long form content, which means it attracts serious people. It is searchable because you can search on YouTube, unlike LinkedIn, for example, and it is evergreen, meaning it doesn't go away. Right? For many YouTubers, much of their revenue and lead gen comes from historic videos, right? So the stuff that you made 5 years ago is still making you money today. So what's different this year? I'm going to highlight two things. There's lots of things I could talk about, but I'm going to highlight two things in particular. First of all, niche channels, and second, video podcasts. So let's go through these one by one. So to give you a little example of just the power of YouTube, I mean, this is our channel at Story Learning. You know, we're nothing special in YouTube terms. We have a good size education channel, almost 600,000 subscribers. But, you know, we will, with some regularity, publish videos that get 1 million views. This brings us thousands of leads, gives us exposure everywhere, brand recognition, all of that. It's incredibly powerful. Right, that's nothing new. What's interesting is how quickly it can happen. So I'm going to skip down here. Actually, so this is a student of mine, Adam, Adam started YouTube about 3 weeks ago. He had an old channel but wasn't using it. He started YouTube about 3 weeks ago, and you can see like this video here, 127 views, right? This video over here, 1,200 views, not bad. And then he publishes this one, and as of today, had 223,000 views for a brand new channel. This is what YouTube can do for you. Just imagine for a second, what would it mean for your business if you had 223,000 views on a video that it's bonkers. It's absolutely nuts. It would cost you God knows how much to get this kind of exposure on paid ads. But don't forget, this is being served to people who are already interested in your stuff, right? So YouTube's incredibly powerful. We know that, nothing new. Tell me something new, Ollie, please. Here's what's shifting. In the old days, we would always say that the easiest way to build an online business is step one, build the audience. Step two, sell them stuff. How many of you guys have heard that piece of advice in the past? Build an audience first, then once you've built the audience, find stuff to sell them. For a long time, I would have given that exact same advice, but we were talking about this in the summer at Ali Abdaal's mastermind in London, and we were talking about how the big difference now is even for very small niche channels, what can happen is if you are very clear on your avatar, YouTube will take your brand new YouTube channel and serve it to all of the right people if your content is good, right? That's what we saw with Adam's brand new channel just a second ago. So niche channels now, what they've done is because YouTube can get you in front of so many people so quickly, you can start, it actually, I think in many cases makes sense to start with the business and then find the audience, because much like paid ads, YouTube now gives you the ability to do exactly that. Whereas in the past, that wasn't possible. All right? Really interesting. Some good examples of this. A guy called Will Brown, 83,000 subscribers, not huge. Ed Lawrence, many of you guys know if you study YouTube, 120,000 subscribers. So, mid-sized YouTube channels, they were a lot smaller until recently. Both make multiple millions of dollars a year in revenue, right? Kind of mid seven figures in revenue from tiny YouTube channels. My own YouTube channel, my own business YouTube channel, has about 3 subscribers to it. I think maybe 4 if I'm lucky. But I put this here as a note to remind myself, when I get people applying to work with me one-to-one, around 80% of people who apply will reference my YouTube channel and say, I saw you on YouTube, or I've been watching your videos, etc., etc. For a very, very small channel where I get maybe 200 or 300 views per video. Why does that happen? It's because the 200 or 300 people who do watch the video, because I'm very specific about who I make content for, YouTube puts that stuff in front of the right people, right? That's the opportunity now. So Letitia's asking is the revenue coming mostly from courses or digital products? It totally depends. You can do this for services, for courses, it really doesn't matter. Even low ticket stuff like we talked about earlier. The point is not the revenue thing. The point, okay, to earn the kind of money these guys make, you have to sell high ticket. But a lot of you don't need to earn that level of money to be pretty happy. So the point is that YouTube, through the algorithm, can get you directly in front of your ideal people. And as someone mentioned earlier, it is true. Who mentioned this? Because it is a fair point. Karen says, making video is such a hassle compared to blogs and audio podcasts. Yes, it is. Although, 2 points for you. Number one, you don't need very high production value, as I'm about to show you. And number two, that just makes it all the easier for those of us who do decide to do video, because most people aren't bothering. All right, so on the topic of production value, let me pivot to point number 2, which was video podcasts. Now, podcasts As we all know, it's like the best marketing medium there is, because people will listen to you straight for an hour. The problem is you can't get anyone to listen to discover your podcast. But we have a new solution: video podcasts. At a very basic level, what this means is taking your existing podcast and simply publishing it on YouTube. Now, you can't just kind of rip the audio and chuck it up on YouTube like people used to do 5-10 years ago. You do have to start to think of it YouTube first, meaning you have to bear in mind the packaging. So idea, title, thumbnail. That's what packaging is. Idea, title, thumbnail. And you could argue the first 15-20 seconds of the video. So with the caveat that you do have to kind of, if you do have a podcast and do this, you might have to kind of plan the packaging of your stuff a little bit differently. But here is the big opportunity. So here's the Story Learning Podcast. Story Learning Podcast, I started back in 2014, over 11 years ago. And then I stopped it around COVID time because it wasn't growing. By the way, this is my favorite new water bottle. I got it in Abu Dhabi a couple of weeks ago. I absolutely love it. I've been using it everywhere. So I stopped the podcast a few years back because it wasn't growing. And I thought I need to either got to really focus on building the podcast or it's not worth doing it. So I stopped it. But then, after seeing what's been going on with YouTube recently, I thought, right, let's relaunch the podcast, but do it as a video podcast. So now we are publishing the video to YouTube and to Spotify. So if you look up the Story Learning Podcast on Spotify, it's now video first. That's quite cool. But you'll notice that it's packaged like a YouTube channel. Now, these aren't the best thumbnails in the world, but they're good and they're YouTube first, right? We launched this about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. We've already got 2,000 subscribers. And check this out. So, bit of proof for you. Went from nothing to now consistently these views. I just took this as a screenshot today. Close to 2,000 views in the last 48 hours. And look at the views we're getting on these videos. 13,000 views. I don't know if you can see this. 13,000 views, 9,000 views, 7,000 views, 6,000 views, 6,000 views, 5,000 views on a brand new channel. Now, I know that the obvious objection is, but Ollie, you already have an audience. Not for this, we don't. And if you look at the analytics, I'm not sure if we have it here. I posted this on social media a while back. If you look at discovery for these videos is 90-something% YouTube pushing it to other people, right? It is not us sending our audience. This is YouTube pushing this directly to people that YouTube thinks is going to be interested. So this is new people. And by the way, if you're going to do this, start a brand new channel. Don't repurpose an old channel. Start a brand new channel so that the algorithm is fresh. Now, production value, someone said, it's a pain in the ass, right, to film videos. Yeah, but look what I do. Oops. Look what I do. I have the highest production value known to man. And it involves me sitting in my chair, turning on the camera and pressing record. I mean, it's literally this. It's even like, the white balance is all off. It's too yellow because I don't really know how to use cameras. As you could tell by my... So it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a solopreneur, there's a question here about being a solopreneur and how big's my team. On my iPad, I have notes for the episode. My camera's here. I press record. I make a title and thumbnail, and I upload it to YouTube. It's not difficult. If you feel resistance to this, it's likely a mindset, just a mindset thing. It's like a lot of us have, and we'll come to this a bit later, because it's an important topic. A lot of us, I think, have been used to doing business in a certain way for a long time. The longer you've been doing things for, and I feel this too, right? This is not a criticism of anyone, but I'm the same. I feel this resistance to it. I get very comfortable. But the longer we've been doing stuff for, the harder it is to change and try new things. But I think such is the amount of disruption going on at the moment, and such are the opportunities for getting crazy views like I've been showing you. I really think that it's just worth taking seriously and really worth considering. Karen, whoever told you that production quality is really important for YouTube doesn't know what they're talking about, right? It just doesn't matter. I mean, look at this. No one, especially for a podcast, the thing about this is that no one is watching this for the video. They're watching it for the information, because if I wasn't publishing it on YouTube, it would just be a podcast, just audio, right? I've got a good mic. I mean, make sure the audio quality is good. But what's important here, as you can tell by the topics, right? The topics are very niche. I mean, look at this. Are hard languages even come on board. Are hard languages even worth it? I don't maintain my languages. The hidden cost of learning 2 languages. What do you notice about these titles? I'll zoom in a bit here. These are very niche titles, right? What's so interesting about this is that I'm able to talk about really niche language topics, like maintaining languages. When you can understand a language but can't speak, you don't actually need grammar. Like, this is not top of funnel viral content at all. It's middle of funnel deep content, and yet it's getting 13,000, 9,000, 8,000, lots of views. This is bringing us tons and tons of leads as well. We haven't really talked about this, but it's bringing us tons of leads, and they're good quality middle of funnel leads. All right. So I guess my message is there's a huge opportunity here, and it's not that difficult to get the tech setup done. In a weekend, if you insist on it. Okay. So let's park that there. I think you get the idea. For anyone that's interested, in January, I'm launching an intensive course, which is going to be called YouTube for Business Owners. It's going to show you how to do all the stuff I've talked about here. It's going to be a month long, 4 weeks, and it's going to basically show you end to end how to grow a YouTube channel so that it brings you leads and sales, which is the thing that we want, right? We don't care about viral videos here. We care about generating leads and sales for your business. I'm going to be running this in January. So just, make sure you're on my email list. Or if you want to be on the waiting list, just drop me an email or something. Registration is not open yet, Ismail, but I'd say just be in my ecosystem. And if you're really keen, just drop me an email. Right. Next, we're on the marketing side of things. Remember, quick recap. We've done one thing in marketing, YouTube. So let's carry on. Personalization. We talked earlier about the amount of AI slop out there and the general amount of noise. What this means is, and we talked about this last year in the What's Working 2024 webinar, we have to work even harder to deserve the attention in people's inboxes. Okay? Which means we do not want to be writing AI-generated emails. We want to be writing from ourselves, and we want to be flooding the system with personality, right? I've got to the point where I'm even making typos in my emails deliberately because that makes it obviously not AI, right? Now, I don't necessarily recommend that as a strategy, but people are so zoned out to AI that the more personality driven you can make your stuff, the better. So we've got to earn our spot in the inbox. But there's a level deeper than this, which is personalization. Now, there are tools that do this. My favorite tool for this is, I think it's probably the only one that's worth considering, is Write Message. Again, I'll put it in the doc here the resources doc. What Write Message does is it allows you to survey your leads as they come onto your list. What are you interested in learning? What have you tried before? Who else do you follow? Whatever questions you want. And then it tags them. So now you can send out personalized emails. So for example, when I send, when people join my list on Story Learning, I know why they are learning a language. Is it to talk to their wife? Is it to talk to their mother-in-law? Is it for work? And then when I'm sending emails, I'm able to say, and this course is going to help you because when you're at work or whatever it is they say, it does this, right? So personalization now allows you to become even more relevant to each person on your list. And this is going to become more and more important. Now, we saw this just last week in Black Friday. So in Black Friday, what we decided to do was, I can't take credit for this, it was James, who runs, my CEO at Story Learning. He did this. I'm just stealing what he did and teaching it to you guys. So what we decided to do is to make as targeted offers as possible. So in years gone by, we had one offer and we blasted it out at everyone. This time, we did different things. And we said, right, we're going to talk to our customers differently. For our customers who have bought from us before, we're going to make them a different offer than we're going to make to people on the rest of our list. So what do? First of all, we send out different messages to people, different email segments. Using tools like Write Message, you can do this more easily. Even with basic segmentation on Kit or ActiveCampaign, you can do this, right? But it's creating personalized campaigns to different people. So if you bought a course from me before, you're not going to get the same emails as someone who hasn't. So we can email people different messages. We're also creating specific offers for students and putting them in front of those students. So our regular offer on Black Friday is, hey, if you want to learn Japanese, go and buy our Japanese course. It's 2/3 off. So it's from $300, basically from $300 down to $100. Right, that's the offer. But you have to pick the language you want to learn, right? But for our existing students, and also when we were sending out our Black Friday offer, we would send people to long form sales pages, right? Because they need to know what the product is. So we're sending them, they have to pick their language, go to a long form sales page, and then decide to buy. Now that works great. But for our existing students, we don't need to do this because they already know what the product is. So what we did was we created an add to cart style system, right? So in your cart, you can add Chinese Uncovered level 1, Arabic Uncovered level 1, French level 2, and then you can actually go through all of our courses, select them one by one and add to cart. So you can basically take your shopping cart through Tesco's and chuck stuff in and go to the checkout. And it worked super well because for lots of our customers, we just removed all the friction and say, hey, which of this stuff do you want? They selected it and it's all done, right? Personalized offers. But then what do we do with it? Well, we email it out to those segments, like I said, but there's more. But wait, there's more. We went into student communities. So we have a student community on Circle and in a Facebook group. We go out there and we put those specific offers to them. But also we go into course areas where if you think about it, where are your most active, engaged students? They're going through your product right now. So that was why I was very happy that Teachable, who's the LMS that we use, have now created the ability to, in your course area, to put a sales banner right at the top of your course area, advertising your stuff. And so now, whenever any of our students log into our courses during Black Friday, which are our most engaged students, they now see what? An advert. And we got a lot of people clicking through from this particular banner to go and buy. How do we know this? Because we track everything, and we'll come to that a bit later. Anyway, point is, moving forward, we're all going to get a lot more juice from the squeeze if we're able to personalize our marketing and put the right messages in front of the right people. Okay, so this is something to really think about. It is work to set up, yes. But this is the kind of work, unlike posting on social media, where it's basically you're standing at the roulette table, chucking a ball on, wondering if it's going to hit. This is work that you can do and get a guaranteed ROI. I guarantee you, if you do this stuff, you'll make more money. So at least that is work you can do that will make you more money, which is the kind of work that I quite like. Next. Search is being replaced by AI search. People more and more are going to ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini and asking, hey, I want to learn knitting. How should I do it? How do I learn knitting? And then ChatGPT will say, here are some tips. And if you want to learn more, you could go and check out this course from Jane. Okay. OpenAI is starting to introduce ads into ChatGPT. Google now has the AI mode on straight away. So whenever anyone is searching for your product, they're getting their answers from AI more and more. The question is, how does AI know what products to recommend? Answer, it looks around the whole internet. Right? You can't game this like you can with Google with SEO. What you have to do instead is manage your brand reputation. How do you manage your brand reputation? Answer, review sites. So as AI is deciding what to recommend, what it's doing is it's asking, what do regular people say about this product? It knows that by reading reviews on Google, Trustpilot, and Reddit. What this means is that we all need to be managing our reputation very actively. And the best way to do that is to introduce systems into your marketing so that you encourage your students to leave you reviews on all of these sites. This is the SEO of the future. If you do this now, you're going to get a really big gain moving forward. Okay, so there are many ways you can do this. I think a cool way to do it is to use a service like delighted.com, which basically, no endorsement, no affiliate, by the way. This is basically NPS software. And what NPS is, for those of you who don't know, is Net Promoter Score. Basically, it goes out and it asks, I'm sure you've received this survey. On a scale of 1 to 9, how likely would you be to recommend this service to someone else, to a friend? Right? The reason that this question is always used is because it's been proven to be the most reliable indicator of how happy someone is. If you would recommend this to your mum, you're happy with it, right? So it asks you, on a scale of 1 to 9, how much would you recommend this to a friend? And what something like Delighted does, and you can do this by yourself, you don't need the software, but basically we'll send out regular communication to your list and say, hey, how happy are you? And then the student will click a number from 1 to 9. If they click 7 or less, you kind of want to know what's wrong. So we can send them to a box where it will say, can you tell us more about what you weren't happy about? What would have made this a 9 or a 10? This is just good customer service or like internal marketing. But if they click 8, 9, or 10, and they're really happy with your service, what do? You immediately follow up and say, hey, I'm really happy that you like my stuff. Please, can you go and leave a review on Google, Trustpilot, or Reddit? Now, not everyone's going to do that. But if you just leave that on autopilot for the next 5 years, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a lot of positive, happy comments on these sites. Now, the other reason this is important is because if you don't do this, guess who will go and leave reviews on Google, Trustpilot, and Reddit? Your unhappy customers will. because happy customers don't leave reviews, unhappy ones do. So what happens is if you don't manage your reputation, all the people who are angry with a vendetta or a grudge will go to Trustpilot and say, this service was awful. So when AI goes and reads it, it thinks, oh, people aren't very happy, I'm not going to recommend this. But that's a distortion. It's just happening because people who are happy don't think to go to Trustpilot and leave a review, which means it's now your job to get them to go to Trustpilot, Google, and Reddit and leave a positive review. Right? If you do this, you will be inflating your reputation online. This will help AI to get a fair and balanced view of your business because it's reading the positive reviews, not just the negative ones. Is this making sense? I think this is quite cool stuff. Next, I think this is probably yeah. So this is like more of a tactical thing, but I don't know about you. So Des is asking, is Senja useful for this? Yes, but Senja is more about like collecting testimonials. This, what I talked about before, is more of a strategy for systematically making sure that your people go to these sites to review. So if you can use that in combination with Senja, then great, but that's not the primary job of Senja. So I don't know about you guys, whenever I am thinking about putting up a new offer or getting something new out, I kind of groan at the thought of having to make a brand new landing page. Like you have to open up a new page, you have to design it. No one ever wants to do that. AI now has got to the point where you can just describe the landing page you want and it will make it for you. Two services that are really great at doing this, Manus and Replit. They're not particularly cheap. I think you'd pay like $30 a month or something. But whatever it is that you're designing, whatever offer you've got, you can literally put together a really good landing page in no time. And it just helps you ship stuff so much faster. You know, compared to if you have a larger team or you're sending stuff out to designers and copywriters and graphic editors and stuff like that, you can do a lot of this yourself and it can save you 80% of your time. So I'm not going to bang on about this, but if you're someone that makes a lot of pages or doesn't ship stuff because it's a pain in the ass to build it out, this is really worth looking at. It can build you the page and then publish it to the web directly, and then it's literally ready to go. As a quick example, I wanted to just test this yesterday in preparation for this. So I mentioned earlier that in January I'm running this YouTube course, right? YouTube for business owners. So how to build your YouTube channel to get leads and sales, not just viral views. So I went to Manus and I said, hey, this is the thing I'm going to build. Can you make me a landing page for it? I literally typed in what I just said. It was like 50 words or so. Would you like to see what it made for me? I'm going to show you anyway. Look at this. Right? It's not going to win any design awards, but it's a beautiful page. And it made this for me out of 50 words. So we can do things faster. I think one of the things that AI is most useful for is doing a lot of this kind of junior level marketing stuff quickly, which is great for us because we save money and it's fast, and so speed is such a big deal so much of the time. Right, last thing from the marketing section. And this is more of a personal reflection, really, and to the extent that it might be helpful for anybody. So at Story Learning, we have traditionally got a lot of our traffic from SEO. And over the last 2 years, we've lost at least half of our traffic from SEO, right? Half of our SEO traffic. We've taken a big hit. Now, because we've been working hard, we have managed to replace all of the leads that we got. I don't care so much about views. I care about leads. All of the leads that we lost, so if our leads, SEO leads kind of went like this, we've managed to replace it and then some with YouTube. So in pure, we're at all-time highs with leads, thanks to replacing our SEO, our lost SEO with our newly found YouTube. But people aren't buying as much as they did because there's a big difference between someone who comes from SEO, who is a reader doing text-based search, looking for information, and a casual viewer from YouTube who just wants to be entertained, right? It's a very different type of customer. So even though our lead flow is at an all-time high, our sales are down because it's a different type of buyer. And the implication for us as a business is we now need to redesign our offer and our funnel to answer the question, what does the YouTube buyer want? Because it ain't the same as the SEO buyer. Isn't that fascinating? Someone who comes from text behaves and buys in a very different way to someone who comes from YouTube. Now, how do we know this? How do we know that leads are up but sales are down? The reason is because every single part of our business, we know exactly what the value per lead is. We know what someone spends if they come from an affiliate. We know what someone spends if they come from SEO. We know what someone spends if they come from YouTube. We track all of this stuff. And over the last 2 years, I've had friends and colleagues in the language business who've gone out of business in the last few years because they don't know their numbers. They don't track stuff. They're like a blade of grass in the wind. I think one of the reasons we've been able to be quite resilient is that we track everything. And so my reflection for you here is that in tumultuous times like this, when a lot of stuff is changing, you've got to know your numbers and you've got to be able to track where your sales are coming from. I'm going to give you 2 resources to help you do this. Again, I'll put it in the resources doc in the chat here. One is a webinar that I did a couple of months back with Keith Perrak, and it's how to track every dollar in your business. It's about 45 minutes. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's unlisted, but you've got the link there. You can go and watch that. The other, if you just want to get stuck in, is a tool called Segmetrics. Segmetrics is a software that we use to track everything in our business. It's how we know all of this stuff. The reason I'm able to tell you all this stuff here is because we track it, and it's Segmetrics that we use to do that. So I don't know who this is useful for, but if it's useful for just at least one person here, then great. So recap. We have seen in the marketing section how YouTube is going from strength to strength, and the big opportunities right now are in niche channels, making very specific middle of funnel content, and having YouTube to put you in front of the right people, and then video podcasts so you can use the YouTube algorithm to get more exposure to your podcast. We've seen how personalization is increasing response and getting more juice out of the squeeze, and then using tools like Right Message to actually facilitate this and putting offers in front of students in the right places. We've talked about how reviews on Google, Trustpilot, and Reddit are central to discovery moving forward because of how AI works. And then we've talked about how you can create landing pages now extremely quickly, so very high quality, using tools like Manus and Replit. And then lastly, we talked about how when traffic changes, the dynamics of your business change, and how tracking everything is really central to you understanding this so that you can respond. Right, okay. We've got one more section, one more substantial section, and it's on books. And it's going to contain some paid ad stuff in here as well. So, books. I love the fact that some things just never change, and books haven't changed. Well, at least in terms of how they fit into your ecosystem as an educator. If there's one thing you can do to launch your business to the world, or to blow up your business and create incredible new opportunities for your business, is writing a book. I mean, I just see it everywhere. It's crazy. These, I grabbed this earlier on. You guys have probably seen our books of short stories at Storyland. We have 25 of these. This is the best thing I ever did, because people discover us in bookshops. They're serious people. They're great for holding up on YouTube. I mean, people, when you're an author, people just take you seriously. And it's just the best possible introduction to your world. This year I feel very grateful because I was invited into some really great author circles. First one is this in the summer in Nashville. I keep banging on about this. You've probably seen me talk about this on my email list, but we've got some of the just all-time greats here from where we've got James Clear, Hal Elrod, Don Miller, Michael Bungastania, Ramit Sethi. I mean, there's just, yeah, I mean, it was amazing. So I got to go from my 3-foot world here in Hobbitshire all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, into like crazy American big time author world. And it was really cool to see how people think and how they behave. And then last week, I was at a meeting. In fact, this week I was at a meeting in London, and it's like the UK chapter. So we've got I don't know how many of you guys will know. This is kind of UK first. We've got everyone with Simon Squibb, Matthew Kimberley, Chris Ducker, Tim Armu. We have Carrie Green, JL. Lots of Anne Law was there. Lots of great people, and it was interesting to see how people do things in the UK compared to the US. And the answer is, in the UK, we're a bit scared to talk about our stuff, I think is the truth. But anyway, books really are number one for marketing. If you are a high ticket person of any kind, if you sell to corporate, if you are a coach, if you do anything high ticket-y of any kind, then it is literally the case that someone will read your book, get to the end of it, and immediately book a call with you. And I've heard this over and over and over again. There's a lot I could say about this, but take my case study, for example. It's not even a book. I just wrote it in a few months in a Google Doc. But it's been shared around so much that I've lost track of it. I mean, I must have had 20,000 free leads beyond the ones that I paid for, just from referrals, just from that one book. And people working with me saying things like, I read your book, I read your case study, and I just wanted to work with you. I mean, it's bananas. And so recently, I have started selling this book on a free plus shipping book funnel. So you can get the PDF for free, or you can, and I'm running some Facebook ads, you basically pay, the book's free, you pay for shipping, we send you a free copy of the book, and then there's upsells behind the funnel. My media partner, Elliot, just sent me a report through a couple of hours ago. This is almost 200% ROAS on paid ads, right? So whoever was asking earlier about paid ads, this is where it's at, really. Books to, who was asking about this? Oh, it's so far back I can't find it. We're lucky that we're now profitable on this on the front end, which means we have a negative customer acquisition cost. We literally get paid. I literally get paid a profit for someone to read my book. It's incredible. I'm not the first person to do free plus shipping book funnel. This has been around for a long time. It's just I finally got it working. Now, this has come off the back of 4 or 5 months of testing, and it's probably cost me $50,000 to build and test all of this, but now it's profitable. Okay, so, and I would not recommend this for a beginner strategy, but what you can do is you can sell a PDF. And we're testing this actually in certain countries where they're selling the PDF rather than the free plus shipping. Still works really well. Even if you lose money on the front end with this, if you sell something high ticket on the back end, you can almost certainly break even. Make a profit. We don't want to break even, we want to make profit. So I wanted to show you that because I didn't start with this. I started off sitting in my local cafe in Hobbitshire by the beach, sipping on flat whites and writing my case study on a Google Doc. Before I even had a business. This was end of 2023. That's all I did. Wrote the Google Doc. I put it out there, did super well. Some people worked with me one-to-one. I took that money and I put it into this book funnel. I spent 5 months testing it and now it's profitable. All of this I've built in the last 2 years. It's really like step by step, you can do all of these things. Okay. And the book is just crazy because when someone reads the book, you know how it goes. They like only a podcast can come close, and even a podcast can't really come close to this. What's important to understand is that the sales cycle of a book funnel depends on the length of time it takes them to consume the book, right? So it's harder to sell a book like this and immediately try and get people to book calls. What you want to do is get the book in their hands, encourage consumption through retargeting ads, through emails, so they consume the book, and at that point the sales cycle can begin. My friend Michael Bungastani is on the call. I was having lunch with him and another author a few weeks ago. One of the things they recommended, which I'm going to do for my next book that I'm starting in January, is I'm going to make it really thin so that you can read it on a flight. My goal is that you can read this thing in 4 hours. Why does that matter? Because consumption speed, right? If I send you a big, thick book, it's going to take you 6 months to get through it. But if I send you a 90-page thing, I have a friend, Phil, who wrote a book called Exactly What to Say. Incredible book. It's really thin, and you can read it in a couple of hours. That's enough time to convince someone that you know your stuff and for them to want to work with you. Okay? So what I'm going to do for my next book is I'm going to make it really short so someone can read it and consume it on a 4-hour flight. So I'm increasing the consumption speed, which increases the speed of the sales cycle, which is just better all around. Now, what's key to make this work? The key to making this work is to teach your system, okay? The book should be, as far as possible, and you know, you can't give blanket advice for books, but this is, if you want to book revenue on the back, here's what you do. You teach your system so that the hero of the book is not you, the author, it is the system. Because it's the system that gets people results. This is using the logical brain as a persuasion tool. Because people believe, okay, if me, Olly, am sitting, I know that if I'm, to the extent that I'm sitting here saying, oh, you can just make a book funnel, I know that many of you guys are sitting there saying, oh, well, you only do that because you're Olly. I couldn't do that. Because that's just the natural way of thinking. I understand that. And a lot of that is because we all kind of situate ourselves relative to other people. But if in your book, the thing that you teach is the system, you're going to avoid this problem of your students saying, oh, I can't do it. It's all right for Jane because Jane's great at this. I couldn't do that. As soon as you start teaching a system, now you think, oh, but there's a system and I can follow a system. Therefore, this can work for me. So what we want to do in our books is we want to teach the system or the methodology that we use to get results for our students. And then what you can do, if you want to get really ninja, is not just sell the book over ads, but you can actually break out component parts of the system, turn that component part into a custom GPT and sell the custom GPT over ads. Because then what you're doing is you're giving something that's directly practical and increases the sales speed even more. All right, let me just put a pin in that for a second. Inside this book, there is a chapter on building your product ecosystem. Right? Some of you guys might have read that in my case study. What I could do if I wanted to speed up the sales cycle is I could create a custom GPT along the lines of what I showed you earlier in the webinar. And I could create that custom GPT that says, hey, I will help you brainstorm your product ecosystem so you know what to write. That custom GPT I could then sell over ads for $20. And now someone can buy that and then immediately get the result. So not only do they get the result from the system, but we're also speeding up the sales cycle because they get that result immediately with the AI, and that increases the speed at which they then want to work with you. Right? So book, tick. System, tick. Individual tools within that system, tick. These are the ways to build not only something which is very, very powerful and persuasive, but also if you want to scale yourself out of the business, this is what allows you to do that. I was in a mastermind with a very, very large coaching company recently, multiple 8-figure coaching company. They said the biggest mistake that they made was when they wrote their book, it was too founder focused. What they should have done instead was make the book focus on the methodology and the system that got the students results, because what they found was they couldn't get the founder out of the ads later. That was the problem. Because the book was so focused on the founder, they couldn't then remove the founder. So they had to do a lot of work to rework their marketing, get the focus the book on the system rather than the founder. That enabled them to remove the founder from the marketing, and that's how they unlock scale. So books for the win. Alongside that, I was lucky enough recently to be in a room with the marketing director of Alex Hormozi's recent $100 million money models launch. So Alex Hormozi, for those of you who don't know, Alex Hormozi did this book launch recently where their launch made $100 million. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. So I was in a room with the guy who ran the entire marketing for that thing. And you know what they did to drive, it wasn't all of them. So we know that their most successful strategy was, you want to know what it was? Micro-influencers. So you reach out to people with between 5 to 50,000 followers on social media and say, hey, I'll pay you $50. Can you make a post about this thing? Now you make a post about it, and now you can buy this entire army of affiliates. And the ROI is ridiculous. Like, there's so much arbitrage opportunity in this market because micro-influencers like systematically undercharge for their reach, and then so you can actually get huge reach that way. I've met many people recently whose entire growth strategy, was it John Strzelecki? I can't remember. I remember someone telling me how they grew their book and sold I think 5 million copies. Their entire strategy for selling their book was reaching out to micro influencers on Instagram and saying, hey, can I send you a free copy of my book? Now that's kind of harder because you've got to send a free copy of the book. They're not going to read it, etc., etc. But it works in certain niches. But the point is, these people out there, if you're looking to breathe some fresh breath of fresh air into your marketing, influencers out there with between 5 to 50,000 followers have very engaged audiences and will generally sell you ad inventory on their account for very, very cheap. It's really interesting. as a corollary to that, a lot of this action is happening on BookTok. And if you don't know what BookTok is, there's this thing called TikTok, apparently. I used it once and then swore I would never use it again and deleted it from my phone immediately. But it turns out it's quite good for marketing. And there's this thing called BookTok where people basically review books, and it's super popular. So this micro-influencer strategy, the people who are doing it really well are leveraging TikTok. So anyway, point of all of this is, if you've got a book in you, you should write it, and you should teach the system, above all, the system and the methodology that gets people results. You should leverage micro-influencers to make sales and get the word out, and then you should consider actually selling it directly to over ads, because if you can get to break even with that, then you are getting your best possible asset into people's hands, and you're making a profit for the privilege of doing it. It's amazing. Now, a few people have asked about traditional publishing versus self-publishing. Right. There are a few things are true here. It is true that traditional publishing is incredible for credibility. The fact that my books are branded with the Teach Yourself logo, published by Hachette, have gorgeous covers, and are in pretty much every major bookstore in the world, yes, that's good for your credibility. There's no doubt. However, the general consensus among authors who have been doing this for some time is that the traditional publishing model makes no sense whatsoever anymore. I mean, half of this room, the room that I was in on Monday, half of the people in the room are published by Penguin Random House. All right? It's about as prestigious as it gets. Someone asked, I think it was Simon Squibb asked, how many of you guys would publish again, would go traditionally published again for your next book? Not one person raised their hand. And the fundamental reason is that the future of book publishing is not in shops, right? For a start, 80% of everyone's sales happens on Amazon, whether you like it or not. So much of how the younger generation are buying books is happening on social media. You can sell, as I've shown you here before, you can sell books over ads and make a profit. So if it's the cachet that you're looking for, if it's like everyone has this dream of being traditionally published, and I think, I've done it, so it would be the pot calling the kettle black if I told you not to do it. And I've got to be honest, I'm very, very happy with my relationship with my publisher, because there's no way I could have published books in 25 languages and be in every bookshop without it, and make very, very good royalties from these books. However, it's also true that I only make 10% of book sales, of net receipts, right? So if a book sells for £12, the publisher's probably only, like net receipts on that are probably only £8, which means I get like 80p from one book sale. Now, I'm grateful. Like, don't want to come across as ungrateful. That's great. But if you self-publish, you keep all of it. Even if you do print on demand via Amazon KDP, you keep 70% of what you sell. So if I had, all things being equal, if I had sold the same number of books, which I wouldn't have, but just bear with me, all things being equal, if I had sold the same number of books, but I'd self-published rather than published traditionally, I would have made 7 times the royalties. It's crazy. Now, yes, it's also true that I almost certainly would not have sold anywhere near as many books had I not traditionally published. So it swings and roundabouts. But the point is that so much stuff now is happening on online stores. So, for example, if you self-publish and you sell through a Shopify store, You can go on YouTube and you can put links to your books beneath your YouTube channel. So if you've got a big YouTube channel, you can sell your books on YouTube Shop. You can sell directly to people on TikTok. You can go out and sell books by paid ads. You can't do any of that stuff with the traditional publisher because the traditional publisher cannot fulfill to individual customers. That's the problem. So I go to my publisher and I say, hey, I really want to get our books on YouTube Shop. And they give me 12 reasons why they can't do it. I could spin up a self-published book tomorrow and be on YouTube Shop by next Monday. It's just the way it is. And so the final nail in the coffin, I think, is really that oh no, I've completely blanked on what I was going to say. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. The final nail in the coffin really is that traditional publishers do not help you with your marketing. And I've heard this from everyone, like across the board, people who've sold far more books than me. Anyone who's a successful author will tell you, you have to do all of the marketing work to publish your book yourself. Everything. Publishers will do nothing. Even if I have a friend who had a 7-figure advance from Penguin to write a book. Over $1 million advance to write a book from Penguin. You know how much they did to publicize the book launch? I think they sent 2 tweets. I mean, that's literally all they do. So again, I love my publishers. I'm very happy, and you know, it's been super successful for us. Great, but I'm not going to do any more like that with my business brand. I'm not going to do that because there's just too much opportunity elsewhere to publish. If I'm going to do all of the marketing work for my book, then I may as well keep 70% of the profit. Why am I going to do all of the marketing work for my book and only get 10% royalty? It just doesn't make any sense. So that's my general view. I know that everyone is going to go out and try to be traditionally published anyway, because we all want that badge of honor, just like I did. And I don't blame you for it. There is a third way, and this is how I'm actually going to do my first business book that I'm going to start working on in January, which is called hybrid publishing. Now, hybrid publishing is where there are companies out there who will help you through the editorial process, through the design process. They have distribution agreements, so they can actually get your book in shops. Because the problem is, if you self-publish, you can't get your book in shops. That's the only drawback, right? Self-publishing is great. You keep all of the profit. You don't get your book in shops. With hybrid publishing, you get your book in shops because they have distribution agreements with the major publishers. So I am going to go hybrid with my next book. And what this means is, essentially, the company, they help me with the editorial process, the creation, printing, all of that, and distribution. And it's more like 30% royalties, which is already a damn sight better than 10. Or is it 60%? It's 60%. It's more complicated, but it's a lot more than you get if you traditionally publish. And you can have books in warehouses that you can ship out to individual people. So you get access to all of the crazy internet stuff. So there we go. I say self-pub or hybrid publishing over traditional publishing. So that's what we've talked about with books. I talked for quite a long time. I'm sorry about it. I get a bit carried away when I'm talking about books. Yeah, MBS, thanks for the clarification. Yes. So yeah, for hybrid, you're looking at about 35% of the cover price. That's right, because it's different from net. The cover price is different to net receipts, and yeah. Which essentially, so basically, if you sell a book for £12, you keep 4, and so that's great. Michael's posting in the chat. He uses page 2. So for those of you guys who don't know, Michael's book is called The Coaching Habit. It is the biggest selling book on coaching this century. Check him out. he's obviously an open book here, and he's told us that he uses page 2 for his publishing. He's published hybrid. With my next book, I'm using an imprint of page 2 for my book. So if you are interested in reaching out to them, then that's who I'm going with. So with books, we've talked about how really the book is just amazing. And that's whether you're B2B selling expensive stuff or languages selling cheap courses. Like it's all the same. We've talked about how you want to try and keep it short so that people can actually get through the damn thing. We've talked about how you want to teach the system, not other stuff. We've talked about how micro-influencers and social media are huge as a strategy, how you can sell your book over paid ads and make a profit doing it, and how traditional publishing is not viable moving forward and is about to be heavily disrupted. So that is it. Now, one last thing before we finish, and it's a bit of a downer. We're going to finish on a downer. But it's an opportunity as well. Now, given the amount of disruption out there in the online space, especially the course space, what's happening is there are a lot of people who are throwing in the towel because their businesses aren't viable anymore. It's sad, but true. And what this means is there is actually lots of opportunity now to pick up what would technically be called distressed assets. And if you are a business that has good traffic, good business model, but you are light on product, this is a way that you can expand your business really quite quickly. And so there's an entrepreneur I work with who I think I won't mention the name because, yeah, maybe not cool. But he has a big YouTube channel, but not that many products. We've been launching products as part of our work together. It's gone really well, but it's a slow process. There is a business in the same niche that he knows who have lost all of their traffic for various reasons in the last couple of years, and they're looking to sell. They have something like 27 courses. So we're in the middle of negotiating him going and buying the assets from this guy, immediately expanding his course portfolio from 2 to 29 courses. Imagine how much extra revenue he can make and how much he can grow his business overnight by simply plugging and playing those courses into his ecosystem. A really significant opportunity. Now, where do you find these businesses? You can find them on broker websites like Empire Flippers. There's a whole bunch of these out there. Word of mouth often is how these things happen. But I wanted to mention it because I've seen a few people do this, and it's one of the, it's a bit like in a recession, really. It's when the most like fortunes are made in recessions. So I wanted to flag this as a way to just start to be thinking about possibilities for growth, because M&A in small businesses is not advisable most of the time. It's difficult and risky. But if you don't have any courses and there's someone out there who will sell you a massive library of courses for a few $100,000, worth thinking about. I'll leave it at that. So this has been what's working in online education in 2025. I've given you an overview of the tectonic plate shifting. I've given you an overview of what's happening in product, including all these fancy things with GPTs and AI and stuff. We've talked about marketing, the power of YouTube, among other things, the importance of optimizing your online reputation for the AI recommendation algorithms. We talked about books, how it remains top dog for longevity and brand value. And then other is my category of 1, which is just to be on the lookout for interesting opportunities, because these are the kind of things that can make businesses. So I'm going to go to questions now. I'm sure there'll be a few. Before we do, you know what has to come next. I have to pitch you on my stuff, but I'm going to do it in a very short and very tasteful way so that you don't take umbrage. No, so it's very short. So I get a lot of people around this time of year wanting to work with me to scale their businesses. I think it's because we're heading into 2026 and we are thinking about strategy, planning, and our goals. I work quite selectively with a small number of people, a small number of entrepreneurs inside my private mentorship. But brand new this year, I also have a scaling program called Elevate, which is open to not to beginner businesses, but to businesses who are slightly earlier along the journey. So that's kind of it, really. I have a focus on online education. So I'm helping people who are experts, authors, course creators, running cohorts, memberships, consultants, that kind of thing. People generally come to me when they want to scale their business whilst maintaining their lifestyle or even buying back their lifestyle. If you've read any of my newsletters, for me, it makes absolutely no sense to sacrifice half your life to try and grow a big thing and then sell and then start living. I tend to enjoy living right now. And I think one of the great things about the internet, one of the great gifts of the internet, is that it allows us to do exactly that. And that's how we focus. That's how I focus my work inside my one-to-one work and also inside Elevate. Elevate is becoming really, really interesting. We have a live event coming up in London in May for anyone who would like to join that. It's free for people inside the program. And so really that's it. It's all of it's application only. There's if you'd like links, there's a doc. I'll put it in the chat here where you can sit here and get links to both. Very limited spots inside my mentorship, mostly because a lot of people are renewing for the second year, which is great. It means I have to do less work, less sales work. Elevate, it's currently coming out of beta. It's been in beta for most of this year. So prices are generally on an upward trajectory. There is less access to me in the future, but if anyone's interested in applying for this right now, it's a good time because we can do the strategy work heading into the new year, and you still get access to all of the beta elements, including me, including the current price. So that's there if you'd like it. Links for both of those things are in the doc, the Google Doc in the chat, so have a look at that if you are interested. And with that, I think I will head to Q&A.